Welcome to the Kirkpatrick Podcast, bridging traditions and trends in learning and performance evaluation. Whether you're a seasoned learning professional or just starting out, join us as we dive into the Kirkpatrick model like never before. Through stories and insights, we are fusing time-honored methods with cutting-edge innovations to help you navigate the ever-evolving world of learning and performance evaluation. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Kirkpatrick Podcast. It's Vanessa and Jim, and we have a very special guest today. We've got John Herman joining us. John is a seasoned veteran of the aviation industry with over 45 years of experience in sales, marketing, and senior management roles. As a business founder and owner, he has a deep understanding of the importance of tailored training within organizations. John's expertise in facilitating FAA training for aircraft mechanics has provided him with valuable insights into effective training implementation. He is passionate about continuous learning and improvement, and his commitment to excellence has earned him a reputation as a trusted advisor in the aviation community. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited. Jim has not stopped just telling me how excited he was to have you join. So I'm excited that we get to meet in person. But before we dive into all the things I know Jim wants to talk to you about, I want to first hear a little bit more about, in your own words, your experience, your work. And of course, you have to tell us how you met Jim.
Of course. Yeah. Now, Jim may not want me to share that, but I'm going to. So, no, my background in aviation started when I was very young. I just had a passion for aviation, and I know it sounds a little crazy, but I remember as a kid driving, or my parents driving to O'Hare Airport to pick up my grandmother every year, who would come and visit from New York. And I remember that because I was always fascinated as we got closer to the airport, watching the airplanes take off and land. And I was always curious about where those people were going or where they were coming from. So that kind of started it. And then my father took me out, and Jim will know this airport, the Waukesha County Airport up in Wisconsin. Years ago on Father's Day, they had an event called Penny a Pound. And fortunately, I weighed a lot less than I do now. And so we went out and got on this big scale, and they weighed us, and we paid them a penny for every pound that we weighed. And that was my first introduction to light aircraft, small aircraft. And I fell in love with it. So long story short, I actually moved to Alaska after my first year of college. I was this probably goes against the training format that we want to talk about, but I was a little frustrated with college, and I moved to
So
Alaska,
are we.
and I started working in aviation at very young, and went through a lot of learning and training, obviously. And through the course of the years, I've worked for a variety of companies, some very small, where training isn't really that predominant, and others, big corporations, where training is very important, or is looked on a little bit differently. So that's kind of where I'm at. Where I am today in my career, I started a company back in 2023 as a marketing group, Tempest Plus Marketing Group. And we have now grown in our manufacturing capabilities and so on to about 40 times the size that we were when we started the company. And so we've got 167 employees now, and we just sold the company, or as I like to say, we took on a partnership with a private equity group a year ago, November. And that's actually been very good for us, because it's allowed us resources to expand the business beyond what we were capable of doing without that help. Now for the fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So Jim,
Yes.
we built a house out here on Lake Red Wine about 12 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and this fellow and his wife moved into the house across the street, and of course we met them, and there was something about Jim that I really liked beyond just his glowing personality and friendliness, and I realized that he's a fellow cheesehead just like I am. And
Nice.
so we had that in common. But Jim was a neighbor of mine, lived directly across the street from me. To be very honest, I did not know who he was in relation to the business world. And that was sort of enlightening for me because as Jim and I talked and I began to learn a little bit about his business and so on, the training and so on that I had been exposed to did not involve the Kirkpatrick model or Jim's company or anything. And one day I was sitting in an office of a colleague of mine out in Seattle, and I noticed that he had Jim's book on his bookshelf in his office. And his name was Charlie, and I mentioned to Charlie, I said, what do you know about that guy? And he just went on and on about Jim and the Kirkpatrick model and Jim's father and so on. And I said, well, believe it or not, Jim's actually a good friend of mine, and he's a neighbor of mine. At that time, I realized that I became much more interested in Jim's business and who he is as a person and what he does, and all that to say that Jim's just been a very good friend of my wife and mine, and still today we get together and have a good time, and I deeply respect him in a lot of ways. So
Amazing.
Wow, thanks, John.
Well, Jim, do you want to kick us off with the first question for John?
I guess I will, because this is an unusual guest. It is
Mm-hmm.
not a training person. It's not an instructional designer. He's not, kind of the L&D world, but he's been there. So I think we're going to get some different types of perspective. John has expectations of his employees, and and John, I guess that's my first question to you is, what are you expecting the people that you invest in training actually go through? What are you expecting of them when they get back to work?
that's a really good question, and I think expectations and results probably differ. They don't always meet. And to be perfectly honest with you, sometimes we go through training just because we have to check the box, if you will, with the FAA, right? We're governed by the FAA on a lot of levels. But from our employees, what I expect is that they will be able to take that training to more efficiently and more intelligently utilize their time, not only in the job that they perform at the time, but also tell us about the things that they need to improve their jobs, and also be willing to commit to cross training, so that because we run lean, right? We run lean, and so we have to have people that can do more than one function within a company to keep it going. And so that sort of resistance to change that exists, people go through training, is something that we ask them to just stay open-minded about. But I think those are the kind of results that we look for. Obviously, we look for financial results and that sort of thing as well, but I'm really more interested in how they come together as a team.
That's really refreshing to hear. I think, Jim, often we make an assumption that they want to see the financial gain or, results, but to hear it's more about the continuous improvement. And what I also heard was, what else do you need? What other support do you need? And I think that maybe that we need to stop kind of making it seem that every single organization or executive only wants to hear about the financial return on the training, but it's a bigger impact. When you talk about what do you need, do you mean in terms of additional training support or additional just support in order to do your job, just more general?
I think both. I'll use an example. We have a facility. One of our production facilities is based in San Antonio, Texas, and this was a company that we acquired 7 or 8 years ago, and it was owned by the son of the father who founded the company. And the son really just managed it as a lifestyle business. They weren't really, I mean, people would come into work at any time they wanted to, and they'd leave whenever they wanted to. And you just can't manage a production company in that way. And so I took it upon myself to literally move to San Antonio. I was down, Jim will tell you, for about 1.5 years, I was down there every other week to work with the staff down there to try and get the company back on track, because we had one customer that represented 40% of our business down there, and we were very, very close to being fired by that customer because of the way the company had been managed. We pulled everybody together as a team, and one of the things that I kept saying to them over and over again was, I don't know how to manufacture these products. That's not my job. I know how to sell the products and market the products and so on, but I don't know how to manufacture these products. So first of all, they had to train me, right? They each of the, and we had 8 or 9 employees down there at the time, and I'll share with you in a minute the success that we've seen, but we had 8 or 9 employees, and I said, you have to train me on your job and how we produce these products, and then you have to tell me what the roadblocks are. What do you need from me and our management team, whether it's in additional training, whether it's in manufacturing resources, whether we need to hire more people, we need human resources added to the equation. And so I would say, if you don't tell me what you need, I can't make that happen, because I don't know your job well enough to be able to make those decisions. And so there was a bit of cross training that went on. Me training them on what it takes from a management perspective to apply resources to get the job done, and them training me on what they do. And as a result, within 2 years, we got completely caught up. We went through a whole cross-training effort, which in and of itself was an issue, because employees were concerned that if we were saying we want to train you in another job, we had to address the Jim, I think in your model you call it the reaction level. We had to address that reaction, because we didn't want them to think that their job was in jeopardy. This wasn't a risk thing. This was you're going to make yourself more valuable to the company if we can cross train you in other aspects. And as a result, the team has really done very, very well down there. The business is up. We not only salvaged the business with this company, they have now improved our vendor rating from a 65 to a 95, and they're coming to us asking us to develop more products for them. And the team has grown from 8 or 9 people to 18 people, and they've just pulled together as a team, truly as a team, and they look out for each other. And that didn't exist 2 or 3 years ago. And a lot of it had to do with that sort of training aspect.
And a lot of it had to do with the leadership that was provided to them.
Obviously
Yeah.
that's important, and it's just little things though, Jim. Before I would go into the plant, I made darn sure I knew everybody's name, because I wasn't, after I wasn't down there on a regular basis, we'd had new people, and I approved the hiring, but I didn't know the person.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make sure that I knew everybody's name. And for my team that goes with me, to at any of our plants, I've always insisted that the first thing we do when we get to that plant is we walk around and we shake the hand of everybody in the building and greet them by name. And that's the first. I don't care how busy we are. I don't care what we have going on. You've got to. They've got to feel like they matter, and they do matter.
That's great. I'm curious, John, how often do you have vendors, some of your senior leaders, and say, what are you expecting from training? What is it that would cause you to say job well done? How often does that happen before?
Yeah, it's interesting because our company, the current company, has grown from a very small mom and pop kind of company to a much bigger group. And as we've gone through that process, training probably has not been as big a priority for us as it should be, or as it needs to be now. Now, we obviously do a lot of training because of the FAA mandates. I mean, we have to provide training within the company for product compliance. Our manufacturing people all have to be trained on the FAA processes, so that when we go through an audit, the FAA comes in and they audit is the guy running the machine doing it according to the proper procedure and so on. So there's a high degree of training that has to take place on the production line itself. There's a high degree of training that has to take place for our engineering group, because they're doing all the engineering and design work on new products. And of course, all new products are very closely monitored and tested and approved by the FAA before we can ever begin to sell those products. And then obviously quality. That's the big one, is our quality department all has to go through recurrent training. And to your point about vendors, we have to make sure we're held accountable by the FAA that our vendors are doing proper training as well. Because if they're not, that's on us, and the FAA will take us to task on it. So it's an important part of our business. The part that I don't think has been as important as it probably should be is maybe leadership training.
John, you've described what you do to help reinforce, help hold people accountable. And Vanessa, just so you know, John is a very gentle, caring person, but don't cross him, and don't try and mess with his business, because he's got another side. He can be very assertive about it, which is a good leader. But
I know someone else like that.
Yeah, the Jersey girl, right?
I think we both do.
But John, you, like with Vince and some of your other high level people, you don't necessarily train them, but you coach them, don't you? And how do you do? What's your style of that?
Jim, I think that's better said than I could have said it, because the thing we look for in the business that's the size of our business is legacy and succession. I'm 66 years old, and at some point in the probably not so distant future, I'm not gonna be there. And I have Vince, the gentleman, Vanessa, that Jim's referring to, I hired him right out of college, and he's worked with me for 20 years. And I have tried to coach him, as you said, it's more coaching than it is training. And I'm now at a point where I feel that if I left today, it would be in really good hands. And I feel actually an obligation to leave at some point because Vince needs the opportunity to be able to do his thing and run that part of the business on his own without me looking over his shoulder. And I think that's where the coaching comes in, and you got to get in. It's sort of like kids, right? You raise them up, and then at some point you kind of push them out of the nest, and that's when you find out if your coaching or training has really been effective.
Well said.
Yeah. Do you have, I would love to know a little bit more about your aviation background, more about the types of training that you participated in, and if there was anything from all of those years that helped shape your perspective on what works today and what doesn't work, and how you implement learning initiatives in your organization.
Sure. So, years ago, I guess my first sort of introduction to training in aviation was when I went through my pilot training. I went through ground school and then got to a point where I was flying and mostly for fun. I never flew professionally or anything. And as a result of no longer being able to do recurrent training, I don't fly anymore for that reason. I don't have the time that it takes to stay current in my training so that I feel comfortable getting behind the stick of an airplane and flying it. So for me, I think that was my first introduction into training was when I took my ground school my senior year of high school, and I had my pilot certificate, I don't know, a couple of years after that. And did a lot of training at that time, which you have to. As my career progressed, kids came along and that sort of thing, and I didn't have the combination of money or time to be able to go out and continue that recurrent training. And I was doing a lot of traveling by commercial airline. So that evolved into training of employees originally on product, different products and that sort of thing. But then I developed programs for several companies that do what we call FAA IA recurrent training. So within the aviation community, there's what we call AMPs, which are airframe power plant mechanics. And that's the basic license that you have to be able to work on an aircraft. And then there's an IA level, which is inspection authorization. They inspect the work that the AMPs do. So they're the ones that if Jim's an AMP, he goes out and he fixes the airplane. I'm the IA. I go out and check his work and make sure it's good and sign off on it. Those IAs have to be recertified every year by the FAA, and it has to be done by the 31st of March. And they can do that a couple of ways. One is there's an event on an aircraft called an annual, which is exactly what it sounds like every year. If you own an airplane, every year you've got to take it in. And the maintenance shop has to do a very thorough inspection of the airplane, and it's called an annual inspection. If an IA completes, I believe it's 6 annuals a year, they don't have to go to the 8-hour recurrent training session. Okay, that qualifies as training. If they don't, or they want additional training, that's where we come in. And as the manufacturer of specific products, we put together a training syllabus that is signed off by the FAA because they don't want us getting up and making a sales presentation. It's not about selling the product. This is about how you maintain the product, whatever it might be. And we put together a training syllabus that basically trains the IAs and AMPs on our product and how best to use them. The thing that I always find fascinating is I have yet to conduct a training seminar where somebody who is an obvious longtime veteran in aviation, and he'll come up and say, I never knew that. I know, and he's been working on airplanes for for a long time. So there's always something to be learned. And I think the biggest danger that we have in aviation is what I would just refer to as knowledge that's, or misknowledge, I guess, that is handed down from one mechanic to another without really understanding that that's not correct. It's that you don't get that from the manufacturer. The manufacturer's recommendation is totally different. So my view on that training that has to take place every year, it's essential, because the products maybe have not changed in 10 years, but the habits are hard to change, and we have to continually do that training to make sure that our products are being maintained properly. So those are kind of the big things that we do as far as training, and then of course, as I said earlier, our training internally that our people have to do to satisfy the FAA requirements are kind of a different set.
Yeah. But I heard you talk about habits and those being hard to break. I'm sure you all put in additional supports and things like that to help break those habits, right? Are there reinforcement techniques or, one-off reminders or something like that you all use to help kind of try to unlearn, if you will, those bad habits?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's difficult for us to do one-on-one sort of reminders because we're dealing with a worldwide market. We have to do training. For instance, I'll be doing some training with customers over in Australia in a couple of months, and Europe and so on. So it's difficult to do those reminders except by sort of email or links to our website and so on. And we do send out reminders and service bulletins and letters to some 10,000 people that we have on our email contact list, and recommend that they go to certain landing pages on our website to find additional information. We also have filmed, and probably every 2 to 3 years update those videos, and we post those educational videos on our website, and then Vince will send out reminders to people. Hey, have you ever, and through social media, right? Hey, have you ever wondered about how to maintain a spark plug? And it'll have a link to the video. So we try to handle it that way.
Oh, you're talking my language, utilizing social media for a reminder. Jim knows that's one of my favorite topics.
Yes, it is.
You got it. Yeah, you really have to. And
meet people where they're at.
So yeah, you got to remind people, and you got to be, if the squeaky wheel, right?
Yeah.
So.
Oh, absolutely.
I have a training example I'd just like to share. I think it'd be appropriate with John here, that we're pretty close to best friends, I think, and have been Green Bay Packer fans together and all this stuff. And we fish together. And as you mentioned, we live on a lake, and I take a group of guys up to Canada every June. And one year John said, well, can I come along? I said, well, we need to do some trainings, in our lake, and to make sure you qualify for it. So, took him out in the boat, and he did pretty well. So here's a picture of us in Canada. Okay, there's me still trying to coach him a little bit.
I'm still learning.
So then I try and use as an example of what it is we're trying to catch. So there's what I'm saying, John, this is the end in mind. This is what we're trying to catch. And so he goes out, and I knew right away that he was going to need some recurring training, because he came in and said, look what I caught.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know if you can see it, but there's
we'll zoom
Oh
in.
my gosh, I forgot all about that.
So we needed a little remediation and a little coaching, but
Yeah,
anyway, John is a dear friend, and I'm just glad that we got to talk about this, and you shared things with me I didn't know before. I appreciate that. Vanessa, what do you think?
Well, I loved the presentation of starting with the end in mind and fishing. I have to know though, has John gotten better?
Yeah,
I quit.
Yes.
He quit. I do remember though that he used to go out by himself, and he'd be out in a thunderstorm or something, and then his boat would quit, and then he'd have to call me, and I'd have to go in under the lightning and drag his boat back in. So
that's
he's kind of
motivation
banned
now.
from the lake.
Yeah, we've definitely had to do that a time or two, haven't we?
Yeah, both ways we have. That's right.
That's amazing.
Exactly.
Well, John, thank you so much for joining us today. Can our listeners, if they wanted to continue the conversation, find you on LinkedIn, or is there a good place for them to find you?
Sure. I'm definitely on LinkedIn, and I'll give my email address if anybody.
We can drop it right in the show notes.
Okay. Yep. So
Perfect.
they can reach out to me by email or LinkedIn. Definitely.
Awesome. John, thank you so much for joining us. This was really incredible to hear from a business leader, truly what it is that you are looking for when it comes to your initiatives. And certainly for me has reframed a lot of the maybe stereotypes that I had in my mind. Thanks again for joining us. And friends, thank you for all for joining us. Make sure that you subscribe to never miss an episode, and we will see you next week with the next one. Bye, everyone.